You bought the building before you had the money for it.
Yep. And then the money came. So the building was, I ended up purchasing it for $1,313,000. The historic building that I currently own, it was built in 1861 as the Bank of Virginia.
In this original Bank of Virginia that were most likely insuring Black people as assets, using them as life insurance policies, using them as real estate, because we weren't seen as people, we were seen as things that would make money. Now fast forward, we have Miss Ashley Williams, a Black woman who owns this building free and clear.
Free and clear.
I want to talk about this pool table.
Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his I Have a Dream speech, or parts of it, at Gloucester Institute under this big, beautiful tree. And so there's a pool table that has landed there and that was there. And it's also said that he played on this pool table along with other civil rights activists and leaders during that time. And so my dear friend, Robert James, son of Kay Cole James, who is the owner of the space in the Gloucester Institute, called us one day and was like, Ashley, we're getting rid of the pool table and we would love for you and the Well Collective to have it.
What's up, guys? This is Brianna Moore, your host of the Conversations on Earth podcast, where y'all come for me, but you stay for the guests. Today, y'all already know, this is the biggest show in the world, so we gotta have the biggest guest in the world. If you don't know her, you might want to know her. Miss Ashley Williams, the CEO and founder of the Well Collective. And I got her bio right here, y'all, but the space that we're in right now kind of speaks for itself. She is a compassionate leader, speaker, and wellness advocate, dedicated to fostering holistic healing and empowering individuals to live authentically. The thing is, y'all, I knew this woman before I ever met her, because the community speaks so highly of her. And I'm talking about community leaders, business owners, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, everybody, or most people who have come on my podcast have brought her up. And so I'm like, yo, I gotta figure out how to get this. I gotta figure out how to get this interview done. So let me tell you something. I'm gonna tell them what happened, Ashley, because I did slide in your DMs and I was like, yo, when can you come on my podcast? I ain't getting no response for like
terrible.
6 months. But look, I'm persistent. I said, I gotta get her on my show. So I came to one of your orientation nights and I met you and we booked it that same night. And so anyways, introducing y'all Miss Ashley Williams. You already know the applause gonna be in.
I know. Thank you.
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. No.
So I gave you a little bit of an introduction. How would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, I mean, what's always really present for me, thank you for that introduction, because I'm definitely in this space of like the relearning of like who I am, how I'm showing up, with all the transitions that life bring and like all of the growth and expansion that life brings. And so that definition brings me back to kind of like, oh, okay. Yeah, I do those things, or I am those things. And I'm really grateful that people suggested that I get an opportunity to be with you. And so, yeah. At
the end of the day, you know, this is a financial podcast.
Yeah.
But I want to get into a few different things that I found out about you. Well, I'll ask you what these things mean to you. 1117.
Oh my, yeah. Yes.
What is that?
So I am a numerologist.
Yes.
And I believe in divine guidance in all the ways. And so 1117 was a number that I saw a lot before moving into this space 5 years ago. And it was during a moment in time where I had the opportunity to create space for others. I got invited to lease this space in August in 2020. And it was right in the middle of the pandemic. The pandemic had just started. I was operating what I would say small, grassroots, socially impacted business. And we were completely mobile during that time. And so I saw 1117 literally every day.
And the small business you're speaking of, is that
Bare Soul?
Okay.
Yeah. So I was operating Bare Soul Yoga and Wellness, my former organization, that really made accessible and approachable health and well-being practices available to the community. And so during the pandemic, my dear friend who operated a studio out of here, this physical location, was moving out, and she said, Ash, like, I would love for you to move into it. And like, you need a space to host community. And I was like, in the middle of the pandemic, hey, where the resources are coming for? You're asking me to move into a space.
Where am I get the money?
Where am I getting the money?
Yeah.
What, like, who gonna pay the bills? Like, when I say socially impact, we won't bring in a lot of revenue.
Right.
And I kept seeing the sign. And so from August to like October, right, I was like, no, like, that doesn't make physical sense. And I was like, yeah. So there was that. And literally my friend goes during a walk, she goes, Ashley, what are you so afraid of? All you have to do is move in on 11/1 for 7 months. And I was like, and I immediately started like crying because it was like God's way of like, Ashley, like, trust me.
I got you.
I got you. And so we moved in on 11/1, November 1. We signed a 7-month lease because it was an ask to take over her sublease just to kind of test out.
Yeah.
And we signed, and we've been here for 5 years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And then another thing I want to bring up too is $25,000 grant.
Whew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quote: I would like 10,000, but I would love 25,000. And you manifested that grant. So I really want you to reiterate this story.
You did your research.
The research team,
like, where is it at?
The research team at Conversations Unearthed is top tier. So,
okay, I love that. So yeah, prior to even this building, so in 2015 is when I started Bare Soul Yoga and Wellness, and really it was a call to. It was a call to meet the needs of Black representation in the wellness space. It was to meet the needs of the trauma that was showing up in varying communities. So like people that were my age, that were young professionals, people that lived in my neighborhood, the students that were in our programs within schools and within Richmond. I was working with youth that were incarcerated. And so just literally witnessing how trauma was being experienced in various ways. So 2015 started Bare Soul Yoga and Wellness. We were completely mobile. In 2017, we moved into a location in Jackson Ward. We're there for 2 years. But I was like, it's so limiting, right? Like being in a brick and mortar, because the revenue to keep a brick and mortar running was really challenging. And it wasn't allowing us to like meet our community where we were. And so I said, you know, like, I gotta let this brick and mortar go. And somebody said, Ash, like, you know, what amount of money would you desire to have to like really feel like you could make and bring this vision to life, to just kind of let go of the space, be mobile, serve the community? And I was like, 10,000 would be good, but 25,000 would be it, right? And literally a couple days after that, I applied for a grant. That was a seed grant for small businesses with social impact. And like, I would say probably 2 months like later, right before our lease was ending where we were currently located, I became the recipient of a $25,000 grant.
That's crazy.
And it was our first grant. And that helped us purchase a mobile vehicle that we still have today. For like $10,000, $13,000. And mind you, this was the first vehicle that I, Ashley Williams, purchased on my own, right? Like first vehicle that the first car that I had was gifted by my mom, but it was the first vehicle that I shopped for was this mobile van that was a Nissan NV 200 cargo van, which then also served as my personal car for 2 years because then my car got totaled. So I literally purchased a community van for like $10,000 to $13,000, purchased mats to be completely mobile, purchased props, was able to have stipends for community teachers to like serve. Yeah.
Look, this whole story, and you say you're into numerology. I'm into numerology too. My number is 5. It's 2025. It's the year of change. you're obviously going through a lot of changes, a lot of changes right now. Before we get into the journey and the mission, acquisition of the building and all of the things, I always am wondering how you transition from W-2 to entrepreneur, because you said you worked at Department of Corrections.
Yeah, Department of Juvenile Justice.
Department of Juvenile Justice. Was that your first job coming out of college?
It wasn't. So I graduated from UVA in University of Virginia in 2010, and I immediately moved home, lived with my mom, and I did have a W-2 job then, but I worked as a mental health and behavioral counselor, and, you know, like in school, after school, therapeutic day treatment, all of that stuff. And in 2012, I got hired by the Virginia Department of Juvenile Justice. And so I served as a reentry mentor program coordinator. And so initially started out as, you know, as a contractor, and then moved into employee status. And I was there for 3 years. And then that job kind of dissolved, and then I worked for a community partner. So I was in this job that I absolutely loved. We did a lot of community work, building relationships, provided workforce development and social emotional learning skills for youth. And it also gave me the opportunity during that time to then start the beginnings of Bare Soul Yoga and Wellness, because I've always been in the work of relationships, right? So mentor program coordination. I worked as like counselor, and then yogic philosophy and community work is very much relationship building in all the ways. And so that job, that opportunity gave me all of that, but it also gave me space to like activate health and well-being and relationship building in the W-2 job that I had. And then it also gave me space and time to then serve in other capacities outside. And one day, after like 2 years of working with them, also a couple of months after fully opening my first brick and mortar in 2017, we lost the grant for my W-2 job.
Oh,
and I had two things, right? I calculated how much they still wanted me to work, but I calculated how much I would earn, how much I would work, and I also lost my benefits. So I was like really weighing in, like, could I put all my time and energy into Bare Soul and like the studio space and like the community
lost
work?
Your main investor, which was your job.
Yeah. And, you know, I said, I'm just going to make it work. Right. And so it gave me the opportunity to say, like, if I invested 100% of my time in what was then not necessarily a hobby, but was like my side, like my organization, I felt that I could provide for myself in the same way as me working that, like,
so it was making
75.
enough money to sustain you.
You know, there was a lot of living paycheck to paycheck. And to be quite honest, so like I left that job and I went 100% working for myself. But on the same day that I made that decision, I got offered a contract job as like to do consulting for mentoring relationships. So from 2017 to probably 2021, I've had varying contractor roles that still aligned with my values and allowed me to like fully still invest in my job. But, you know, Bare Soul, like my first organization, did not pay me. I mean, I didn't really pay myself, both from a lack of like wisdom or business savvy, but also just because we weren't generating a good amount. Like a lot of the money that we were earning from a revenue standpoint was going directly back into the business or going directly back into paying some of our facilitators or managing expenses and operations.
Sustaining itself.
It was sustaining itself, but it wasn't necessarily sustaining me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And I do want to go back a little bit more.
Yeah.
What was your first relationship with money?
My first relationship with money, which, you know, that's such a journey. But I got my first job in in high school, right? So like it was always that I would have a job. So I worked at UCrop. So if you're in Virginia or Richmond, and you know the surrounding areas, like that was the cream of the crop job. And so also very heavily like community, like service oriented. And so highly aligned with also my values and what I was interested in. And it was also a place of food. Like what? Yeah. I got to eat good food all the time. But my first job was being a bagger for UCrops at age 16 or maybe even 15 if that was allowed, I think. And I worked there through college. And so that helped me sustain, pay gas, pay for my clothes. And, you know, I come from family that is really supportive, right? But, you know, it was a responsibility of me to take care of like my day-to-day like needs that were extra outside of like my house and my home and like you know, if I wanted extra clothes and things like that. So learning how to manage money, or that started I guess in my mid-teens. But I also made the decision when I got like my first real job like out of college, I like went to 9 West and bought a pair of heels and thought that was like really cool. So like now that I look back on that, I'm like, girl.
Yeah. So what? Coming from that, like that UCrops job to now, you formed a lot of good relationships. One relationship that has afforded you a $2 million building. I just think the little Ashley that grew up in a place or with parents who weren't necessary. I mean, I feel like this is kind of normal in the Black community where we're not really privy to how bills work. Like we're not talking about investing or finances. What goes on in this house stays in this house. So we're not talking about things outside of that. So I'm just trying to figure out, how does that feel to go from not really knowing too much about money to going to 9 West and being like, oh yeah, we balling. Like I just spent a bag on these heels, to now creating a company, acquiring a building. You have employees. You don't have to have a W-2 job in order to make money. You're sustaining yourself through your business. How does that feel?
Yeah. I mean, there's a freedom that, I mean, I think freedom and liberation is really what's at the top of my mind. And so going back to even your question when you said, like, how would you describe yourself? Right? And this goes along with kind of even my relationship with money and where I land right now, is that you know, I always name like my lineage of family, and I'm doing a lot of ancestral work right now around both like family, money, relationship, all of that stuff, because I think it's what I'm meant to be doing right now is to really rethink about how we view money and reimagine it. But I name that, like, I am the daughter of entrepreneurs and educator. I'm the granddaughter of entrepreneurs, educators, and farmers.
Somebody named Franklin Roosevelt.
Lord, girl, yeah. Oh, yes. Franklin Roosevelt Jr., Franklin Roosevelt Sr., y'all. If you come around me at any moment in time, you will meet them. That is my father and my grandfather. Yeah. Which is also a very interesting dynamic with just having that name. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Like there's a lot to unpack there. But if you think about them, the lineage of them, and my mom, very much we need to be financially stable. And what that means is that you need to have a house, you need to have a savings account, you need to have a working car, you need to have a good job that sustains. And my dad, very much hustler mentality, very much self-employed, very much like adventurous, and is like, you know, very giving with his finances, even without, you know, maybe making a huge amount of money, right? Like, and it's given me a perspective of like, what does the value of money mean and how can it be like utilized? And so my core values are love, liberation, and freedom, or love, liberation. And I interchange liberation and freedom. And then I also interchange community and connection, right? So those are values that I live by. And when it comes to money, especially over the trajectory of my life, is like, how can I reimagine money being something that offers liberation versus being something that offers limitation, right? Like the mindset of, I don't want to not do something that's going to bring me joy because I have a lack of, right? I want to be mindful of like, how can I not necessarily work to live. Well, what's the phrase? Like, live to work. I don't desire to like, I don't live to work.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess really I don't even work to live, right? Like, it's like, how can you both work and live and enjoy life, right? Like, how can you do both of those? And that's been my philosophy. And so over the past couple of years, with having to just reimagine relationships with money and how to like prioritize relationships through love and action, like, what does that mean? And so a couple of years ago, I've had the opportunity just to like be in relationships with people. And I think that's, you know, the social network right now is really like coming to the forefront. And so I named very strongly in the creation of the nonprofit and the creation of like the visions for the nonprofit that I desired to purchase a building, to then continue community work and continue like well-being work and continue community building and restoration. And this current space that I just acquired, 1015 East Main Street in Richmond, in the historic financial.
Oh my gosh.
It's so beautiful. And the historic banking and financial district of our city. I saw it one day and I sent it to two very important people. And
who was it?
So the first one was my partner.
Okay.
Right. Now my fiance, Breland. And I sent it to him and I was like, I think this is the building that's going to be the well. And he, for the first time, did not like be like, girl, what in the world? Like, he didn't question me. He basically like was a champion for it. And then the other person was a really good friend that also has been a supporter of and a donor and a gifter to the nonprofit in our operations, which is the Well Collective. And so did that, and the building was one point, we ended up winning the building off of auction. So during that time of me thinking about acquiring it and what it would look like, I reached out to several people, and one of them stated, they were like, well, I would help cover the down payment, which would be 10%, and then we would look at what it looked like to get the rest of it, because you would need to have the full amount of it. And so I ended up winning the building off of auction. And and this individual basically committed to being the full purchaser of it. And so the building is fully in my name through transferred through funds. And that's also a very big testimony to relationship, right? Like, it's not, there's no strings attached, right? It's definitely an invitation for us to be in deeper relationship of like, how do you give money to support something that's bigger than both of us, right? And it also put me in the responsibility of being in deeper relationship with just money that is then managed as well, right? And so I purchased it last March, so a year ago today, like a year ago, and I've learned so much about money. I've learned so much about management. I've learned so much about being in relationship around like the sustainability of money too, right? Or reimagining it. And so it's something that was really special is that like my friend who gifted it, like, they gave me this very beautiful card that they had drawn that had the amount of the building. And so the building was, I ended up purchasing it for $1,313,000. That's the number that I bid, which is also a numerology like kind of connection. The building that we're in right now is 13 South 13th Street. And leading up to this purchase, because I wasn't going to go through with the auction. It felt like too big of a risk. And I kept seeing 313 like everywhere. I saw it like all the time prior to the auction. I didn't know what it meant. And on the day of the auction, somebody was like, that was sitting in the office with me while the auction was going on. They literally were like, Ashley, like, if you think that this building's for you, why wouldn't you put yourself in the game? Like, this person trusts you enough that if you lose the money, it seems like it would be fine. And as soon as they said that, I looked at the screen and somebody was about to purchase the building for $1,313,000. And like, I was like, God. And it was at this moment, it was in a 40-minute bidding war. And so I typed in $1,313,000.
Yeah. And
nobody bid after me. And so then I won the bid. And by the end of that day, my friend then committed to purchasing the entire building.
So you bought the building before you had the money for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then the money came. So, you know, and that's where it's like the relationship with money, it's important to have, right? Because we live in a world, right, that requires money to sustain in many of the ways. Like, you can't give pennies to pay rent, right?
Yeah.
Like, you need money to sustain in a lot of the ways in which our systems have been built. You need money to purchase clothes most of the time. And so there goes this reimagining of what money can do.
Yeah.
Right? What's the role of money in relationships? How can we use money as a practice of liberation and not limitation, which is something that has to be really rethought. Like, I have to really think about that in a lot of different ways, because I never grew up wanting, like, I didn't grow up in a situation where like you were impoverished.
Like,
I was impoverished, right? Like, I didn't lack money, right? But I also had to work hard for the things that I desired, right? And I also was taught that, like, money wasn't endless. I saw that, like, money also ruined relationships around me, right?
Yeah.
So to have an opportunity to, like, be in relationship with people where reimagining, like, this relationship with money and bringing it pleasant, and that it deepens relationship, and that there's an opportunity to be generous with it, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
You know,
because money is energy.
Because money is energy, right? And like, and we are energy, and energy cannot like be created nor destroyed. It literally is just like, it ebbs and flows. And so there's a deeper conversation even around money and like our country, right? And us living in the city of Richmond, right? Like, even the historic building that I currently own, you know, it was built in 1861 as the Bank of Virginia.
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
Then rebuilt after the American Civil War because it burned down, and rebuilt as the Virginia Fire and Marine Insurance Company, right? And that's, you know, what is commerce. We live in Richmond, which is like the hub of and the epicenter of the economic development system that has then rippled through the American continent. And like, what has value, right? It's what and who did we utilize as commerce? Yeah, livestock, but also people. Black people, right? Yeah. And so, like, what was value, right? Like, who owned what and who? And so, as now someone that owns what was the first bank, like, of Virginia, maybe not necessarily the first bank, but in 1861, and the Bank of Virginia in the historic financial district, is like, how do I redefine the value of both money and people in the same vein?
And okay, with all of that being said, right?
I know that's a lot.
No, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this pool table.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Because I did a tour of the new building. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's massive for one. It feels like I said before, it feels like a block off of Black Wall Street. Like, it's how many floors is it? Like,
so it's 6 floors, 13,000 square feet. Initially built in 1861, rebuilt in 1866, renovated in like 1987. Also the year that I was born, which is quite wild.
Crazy, yeah.
But, you know, it has a lot of features. Like, it's 1 out of 3 original iron front buildings in our city. And so not only is iron front a historical kind of like context of like wealth and abundance, but also like the building has beautiful original like arched windows, which is also a sign of like wealth and abundance and like beauty. It's a really interesting, it's got beautiful Corinthian columns.
I mean, it's extremely presidential in a few of the rooms. Like I feel like Obama, Michelle, or Barack could take a picture and I would know that it wasn't the White House, honestly. But okay, we gotta talk about this. We gotta talk about this pool table.
Yeah.
In this original Bank of Virginia, you said that were most likely insuring Black people as assets, using them as life insurance policies, using them as real estate, because we weren't seen as people, we were seen as things that would make money. Now, fast forward, we have Miss Ashley Williams, a Black woman, who owns this building, free and clear.
Woof.
Free and clear. I'm like about to tear up right now. I'm like, whoa, this, and the story of this pool table. Please tell us about it.
Yeah, so I encourage everyone to definitely look up the Gloucester Institute. So it is historic Black-owned land that's right on the York River in Gloucester County in Virginia. Also, Gloucester County has an immense history there. Immense history. And you've also interviewed Kelly Lemon, who is from Gloucester.
Who I was thinking about.
Yeah, she very beautiful space, but it's the original home of Robert Moton, who was an educator, a leader, and during like the civil rights era, he invited many civil rights leaders and many activists and politicians of all backgrounds, but specifically Black civil rights leaders. And it's said that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote his "I Have a Dream" speech, or parts of it. At Gloucester Institute under this big, beautiful tree. And so there's a pool table that has landed there and that was there. And it's also said that he played on this pool table along with other civil rights activists and leaders during that time. And so my dear friend, Robert James, son of Kay Cole James, who is the owner of the space in the Gloucester Institute, called us one day and was like, Ashley, like, we're getting rid of the pool table, and we would love for you and the Well Collective to have it, right? We love you. We love the work that you do. And we're a huge partner in and there's a lot of synergy in how we're bringing forth our activism these days. And so we sent like movers down there to like professional pool table movers, and the table is antique. They could not get it out of the room. It was too big. It's like huge, all the things. They couldn't park it apart. So we ended up having to leave it there, and we got a refund. So fast forward a week later, Robert and the team at Gloucester call us, and they literally say, so someone in Richmond wanted the table. They found a way to get it to Richmond. We got it to their place. They decided that they didn't want it, and we're wondering if you still want it, and we'll drop it off. And I literally was like, what? So they dropped it off at the building. They were able to get it into our building. And so now this very historic pool table that it said that Martin Luther King Jr. and other civil rights activists played on is now on one of the floors in the building that we currently have. And so it's just like, when things are meant to be, things are meant to be. But it's an honor to just be in that energy, right, of like dreamers and doers and people that gave a damn, right? Like people that are showing up and putting, just showing up to build community, showing up to do like civil rights work, to create spaces where, humans are seen, felt, and heard and valued. And, all of our like history and stuff aren't perfect, right? Like Martin Luther King Jr. was not perfect, and his work is also very inspiring to people like me and those of us that are showing up in community to make impactful change. So for that, like that ancestral wisdom and that ancestral energy to like be in this like aura and sphere is like, I'm like, okay, thank you, God. Like, thank you.
That's that's the one right there.
Yeah.
You can look. Oh, see, you never know who will be featured. on an episode of Conversations Unearthed, okay?
Yeah,
I really want to get into college, okay? Because a lot of people say you don't need college to become an entrepreneur, and for you, I'm looking at your bio. You have a bachelor's of arts in psychology, from Bachelor of Arts in Psychology from UVA, and a Master's of Science degree in yoga therapy with the focus of trauma responsive and healing center practices from Maryland University. I don't see anything about business in here.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I mean, truth be told, so like my second year of college at UVA, I had called my mom one day and I said, I want to be an event planner. Like, mind you, I'm in psychology. I was initially thinking I was pre-med, going to be a pediatrician, and I was not doing good in chemistry. Like, I probably could have, I just needed to cheat off of everybody at this point in time. Like, I was like number
Breaking
4.
News alert.
I know. I was like number 4 in my high school class, got to UVA, really humbled your girl.
What?
It was interesting.
Did you go to?
I went to Prince George High School.
Oh, Prince George. Okay.
Yeah, right
Dang,
here.
number 4 at Prince George, that's not easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and I loved, and I loved school, and so pre-med was just not for me. Like, I realized that at the hub of when people said, like, what do you want to be? And I was saying pediatrician, it was really like, I just want to be with people. Like, I want to be in relationship with people, like, and create spaces of like people being healthy and all the things. Yeah. And kids, right? So I was like, yes. But that wasn't working out. And I called my mom and I said, I want to be an event planner. And my mom was like, you're not going to UVA to be an event planner. I was like, well, actually, I can.
Right.
And so then I ended up enrolling in psychology, really ended up loving it. And so, like, I did a lot of event planning things, and I led like one of the largest nonprofits and like philanthropic organizations on campus. And so that got me into like the community service work. But then, like, when I left, UVA, and then like I came home and I was working in like the mental health and behavioral health field with youth and adults, and then I worked for the juvenile correctional center. I always had autonomy, right? Like, I've never had a job that like I was micromanaged.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? So like it was always, here's what needs to be done, and then I had the freedom to do it. So I think that like that energy of just being able to create and to be innovative and to plan and to execute and to like gather people and to communicate, like all of those are the skills for an entrepreneur. But I think the thing is that like that is different when you're an entrepreneur versus like in a job or like in school, is that like what I had was like a passion, right? And then like moving forward, I'm very clear what my purpose in life is, and I'm like really unwilling to kind of do something different than my purpose. And so that has required me to like be an entrepreneur. And I mean, and quite honestly, like the word entrepreneur never really like all like settled with me for some reasons, right? Because there's like this ambition that sometimes is synonymous to entrepreneurship, or like that I was witnessing, right? Like, it's like, oh, you're ambitious, and like, oh, like there's like, you're a businesswoman. Like, it's been really challenging for me to really settle into entrepreneurship or the word boss or like, or businesswoman. Like, it's not until probably now in my career and over the past like really 6 months that I'm like, oh yeah, like I am an entrepreneur.
I might resonate with that.
I might resonate with that a little bit. And I think it's like, I think what it was just like even like that relationship with like money, or that relationship with like pretty much like a male dominated field, or like the power that comes. Like, it's just recently that I've been able to like understand or reimagine what some of these like connotations with like even the word entrepreneur come into. Like, I'm very much passionate and I'm very much purpose driven, and that has allowed me to merge all of those skills from planning to execution to implementation to like dedication to like decision making and communication. Like,
but you're doing I don't know, you're doing it the right way, because most people who are doing social impact work are having trouble with funding, right?
Yeah.
So even if the mission is amazing, you know, people sometimes you don't really understand how to get contributions or grants or funding. So it's in you. That's what I said.
Yeah.
Like, it's not on you, it's in you.
Yeah.
And I'm just happy to be in your presence right now. But I want to ask too, for the people who are watching, for the people who do have a social impact type of nonprofit organization, what would be some advice that you would give them specifically to fund their dream?
Yeah. So I'm going to speak on two realms, right?
Okay.
Because I've operated as a small business with a social impact. I did that for 10 years. Right. And so, but I've currently, kind of closed that leg of my organization. And then now I operate as a fully, like a full 501c3 nonprofit organization that has like social enterprises connected to it. So for the person that has a social impact, small business, I think the biggest thing is to treat your business like you can't treat your business like a hobby. I think that's the first thing, right? Because that was my first financial lesson when it came to moving from moving into sustainability. Right. So we were a sustainable organization based on the revenue that we had, but it wasn't until I put the key things in place to then to ensure that we were sustainable, right? And so your own generated income is also in revenue is so important as a social impact organization because it allows you to continue to make a social impact because you can't do that if you're not sustainable, right? You have to stop the work. And so you have to really pay attention to what the business needs are, right? So like what are wages for the team that you have? What's the wages for yourself as an entrepreneur? Making sure that you put that wage in there, right? Because it also shows that you are you're paying yourself in some capacity, which is helpful as a business, right? And then you also have to from a social impact standpoint, ensure that like your prices are aligned with generating income so you can kind of show that you're generating income. You should have a budget and a business plan, and also be really clear on like your impact, like numbers, because I think that's something that like, if you get to a point where you are a social impact small business and you want investment, right, you have to really be able to speak to what your outcomes are, right? Like you have to, and so having a good CPA is clear. Like, don't settle on like doing your accounting and bookkeeping by yourself. I think that's something that it's a worthwhile investment to have a really good CPA. It's really good to have a business plan that doesn't necessarily need to be the Bible, but gives an opportunity for people to understand what your vision is and like what your impact is, who you're serving, what your services are. Because you also need that if you do need to go to like financial institutions like a bank for financing, or you have an impact investor that really wants to kind of be a part of investing in your dream. And that can do that, even though impact investors get like a return, you have the documentation to kind of even use that as a financial a financial
impact
source.
Investors would be incentivized to invest because of like a tax write-off?
They would, so they basically have a share, right?
Okay,
so impact investors are kind of like a loan, and sometimes it's a better opportunity, and I'm learning a lot about that right now, but it's a better opportunity maybe sometimes, or an easier opportunity, and it has its own terms than going just to a banking or a CDFI, which is like a financial institution, right? You have someone that with impact investing, the interest rate and return is a little bit lower, right? So rather than like maybe a 6% like payoff, you might be doing like a 2 or 3 over a longer period of time, or it might be based on like the business's like trajectory or revenue generating, and then you have somebody that's like invested in you, right? And so sometimes it's a little bit easier to have an impact investor than going to the bank and getting a loan, right?
Okay.
And so that's kind of, if you have a social impact small business, those are some things that I would really highly like suggest, like a really good CPA, setting yourself up to receive varying funding streams by making sure you have a good business plan, good bookkeeping, good display of like impact and like and future vision. And then on the other end of that with and also like finding small business grants that are for social impact organizations. There was a time where there weren't a lot of small business grants, right? But right now we're in an age where there's a lot of organizations that are giving to small businesses or individuals that are leading social impact initiatives, whether through businesses or projects. And so having a really good grant writer is also something that's really cool because it helps support, reducing something off of your schedule.
Yeah.
And
This
delegating
is a
that
master
out.
class right now.
I know,
mean,
right? We used to do this thing. I used to have this workshop that was called mindfully minding your business, and I led it with one of my colleagues, Suzanne Burns, who was also the owner of this space prior to me. But we did that, and that was a really good opportunity. And then I do workshops around it as well, because it's just information that sometimes you just don't know.
Yeah.
And it's actually information that I've learned from having mentors and people that just like believe in me or like want to support. And so I've been really blessed with a generous amount of information just from our sphere of like networking. And so
and where do you find the impact? Where they hang out at?
So that's the thing, like, and I think that's the thing is like, look who's doing what you desire to do, right? Like, and ask them not to pick their brain. Do not use the word pick your brain, right? Like that is, I mean, I don't know. It's just something that's just like, not a great term, right? When it comes to like time, but like look at who's doing something similar or bringing forth the same values of what you're interested in doing. And first and foremost, ask them for their time. You might compensate them for their time, or you might just ask them for their time and like barter or offer them support. And like one of my mentors and the people that I've learned from, the way that I learned is that I asked them, I said, especially if they're doing something similar that I'm interested in doing, I say, can I support you in some way? Right? Not that I want to do this and like, how do I do it? But can I support you in some way? Is there something that I can do where I can learn and help push forth what you're doing, whether it's in your business or on the nonprofit side, your mission, right? And I've learned a lot from that. And so that's also gained me spheres of influences that have people from CPAs, accountants, attorneys, people on the social impact side. Like I'm more in connection with people that own businesses or are in business development because of now that I'm in business development at a higher level, and now I'm, developing a building and I'm needing other resources, I'm asking the people that I've learned from, and they're easily putting me in connection with like everybody. Like it's relationship building. So I think they're many times right in front of you. You just have to get really good at asking and like opening the eyes to like really see what your needs are and then who's already there. Because they're definitely already there. And I think on the nonprofit side, how you're asking if you're in the nonprofit realm, and I think even when you think about nonprofit versus like a social impact small business, one of the questions I always got is like, why, like, what is your business model and why have you chosen one or the other, right? So I think having an understanding of the benefits of having a nonprofit versus the benefits of having a social impact like small business is so important and key for one to discern prior to either starting something or really understanding their business model prior to like when they're in it to discern what works best for them. But for the nonprofit side, from a funding standpoint, we're technically a startup nonprofit. And I say we, the Well Collective is. And, we are 4 years on paper this month. And one thing that, has been really helpful for our sustainability is having individual donors. Right. So one of my jobs and jobs and responsibilities is to meet with people that align with our vision and are interested in our mission and seeing it grow, to ask them to be supporters, whether they're one-time givers, whether they're multi-year givers, getting really good at understanding the budget that's needed for operation, and then inviting individual people to be donors and inviting individual people to be supporters of the mission and to be a part of something. And so individual donors, corporate and business sponsorships or sponsorships or partnerships. So inviting organizations to be a part of our programming and our events and our volunteerism, and how do we work together and build that? So that's a funding strategy, both on our program service side, but then also on like our support side from a revenue generator. and donations. And then foundations and grants. So really building relationships with foundations that align with our missions. Applying for grants is key with organizations, once again, that align. Because, I think that's something that, I know that I'm learning a lot more about is the grant writing and like foundations that are available and accessible. And if I don't have a relationship, getting really good at asking for people to make introductions, right? And also being really clear on what our needs are, being really clear on what our vision is, being really clear on like what, like who we want to be a part of it. And so I think, funding at the end of the day comes down to relationships. And I think it's also important to name that, like, we have also created a society where sometimes relationships, like, there's barriers to relationships for varying reasons.
Yeah.
And that's a deeper conversation that I think that we could have. And it's always good to, like, amplify and elevate the relationships that you do have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Since we're talking about relationships and we have this beautiful building that we're in now, however, we're going to transition to the new building.
Yeah.
Which has all been built off of relationships. The journey / mission of the Well Collective organization.
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah. I mean, so we're a mission-driven, a movement-based organization that's really meant to center individual and collective well-being. And we do that through creating spaces for restoration.
But you said individual, collective.
Individual and collective well-being.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what I mean also by individual and collective well-being is that we create spaces where individuals can seek self-knowledge and really get to know themselves. But then we also provide opportunities for us to focus on collective well-being by bringing people together to connect and have deeper relationships with each other. Okay. And so we do that through creating spaces for restoration. So creating spaces that naturally restore like mind, body, and like soul, and create spaces where people are seen, felt, and heard. And so that might look like, we have a lot of live plants somewhere. It might look like that we create spaces where there's communication or there's relaxation techniques, or, it has the elements of restoration. But we create spaces where people can connect. So a lot of community building events or activities, a lot of spaces where we build capacity. And so when I say build capacity is like, how do we utilize education to then increase our internal capacity for resilience? How do we use education to build capacity for leadership? How do we build capacity to strengthen our relationships to then do movement work together? And then last part of that is like, how do we transform systems, right? By working within school systems, corporate and nonprofit grassroots organizations to create spaces that build cultural resilience and cultural workplace well-being.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And of course, I gotta do my fire round questions.
Yeah.
All right. Let me think which ones I want to do. We gonna do a mix of yes or no and then let it flow. It's only one answer to this question though.
Okay.
What's something in a house that tells you that somebody is wealthy? I'm gonna give you a hint. ATL. T.I. Nunu. Come on, you seen ATL?
Oh my gosh, but okay, so anybody who knows me knows that I don't know anything like culture, like anything that's like media or anything that's like movie related or song related. I can't recall anything.
My God.
I've probably seen all of it and I can't recall any of it. So hold on, let me think. That says wealthy?
Yeah.
A car?
In somebody's house, though.
In somebody's house. A TV. A camera.
Ashley, oh my gosh. We was doing so good before this moment. You seen
a
the movie?
piano?
You seen the movie?
He's really trying to help me back there.
You've seen the movie ATL, though,
I've
right?
definitely seen the movie ATL. I used to think I was going to marry T.I.
Okay. Close. You remember Nunu's house, right?
No.
You got a Picasso in your house.
Oh, okay. Artwork. See, you are so good. We got so many portraits on here. I am an art collector these days.
Okay.
I love art.
Okay.
Like,
I see.
Oh my God. It is like,
I don't know where the piece went of you in the newspaper. I know y'all got that piece in
the new. Oh, did you see it?
Yeah. Kiran showed it to me. She was like, yeah, we just got this. And I was like, oh, that's going to be lit
that is
to
so
have
funny.
on the episode.
Yes. Oh, but that's so funny. Yeah, that resonates. I saw that.
Oh my
I remember that.
gosh.
Now that you say it, I'm terrible. I don't know any songs. Something happened at the age of like 16 that I don't recall anything. I don't recall anything. I will watch every movie and the next day I won't remember anything.
Oh my gosh. Okay, all right.
I know, it's bad.
Is it possible?
Ask Kelly about it.
Oh, Kelly is lit. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll have to have a conversation about this. Is it possible to be spiritually aligned and still broke?
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, okay. But my jerk reaction to that was going to be a yes.
Okay.
Right. But in deeper thought and like really thinking about it, it's kind of like, how do you define spiritually aligned? And I think one thing that I've learned over the past year is that everybody has their own definition of spiritually aligned. And so, is this a yes and no, or should I be giving it a
This was a yes or no, but please expound, because I was going to ask you to expound.
Okay. Because I will have a story for everything. But so my definition of spiritually aligned is literally that you are very aware of like who you are and of who you are internally in essence, and how that then connects with something bigger than you. And like for me as a Christian, like that's God, right? And it's also connection with my ancestors. It's also connection to my spirit guides, and and like energy of all the kinds, right? And so I say that into senses that like spiritual alignment for me is, there's this space of calm, there's this space of knowing, there's this deep space of like of settlement, and it's a space that when I'm spiritually aligned, I'm making decisions that are grounded in like who I am and my purpose, and then also in connection with like spirit, right? And so in that moment, I probably make better decisions. I make the decisions that align with this internal essence.
Okay.
And that's with spirit outside of external, like other factors.
Okay.
And so when that happens, for me, you're probably making decisions with more discernment. You're probably making decisions with more like discipline. You're probably making with more decisions with your money that's like purpose driven, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I think that like, so the initial question was like, could you be spiritually aligned and broke? Yeah. So it's like, I think you could.
You could.
If you have a misunderstanding of what spiritual alignment means for you.
Okay. I got
right?
you.
Like if spiritual alignment for you is not a connection with self and a connection with like a higher spirit that is a benevolent spirit, like a good God and a right aligned, right?
Yeah,
if you're not there, then you might be broke.
Okay.
You might be making some decisions that like aren't helpful for you, but that's from lack of awareness. But if I were to align, like spiritually aligned with self-awareness and spiritually guided, then I feel like you might not necessarily be
It's probably
broke.
It sounds situational.
I think it's situational because another thing too is like when you think about that question, it's like, not everybody who does good work and that's spiritually aligned. Like you think about Jesus, right? Like he wasn't walking around with gold chain. Like he didn't, wealthy wasn't like necessarily aligned with good deeds and healing and community service, right? So it's like, what do you also, like what is wealth, right? Like what's the definition of wealth? And my definition of wealth has definitely changed, but when we talk about financial wealth, it could be very different, right?
Okay,
like in answering that question.
Okay. All right, I got 5 yes or no knee-jerk reaction questions. I'm going to just go boom, 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 boom.
Okay.
All right. Can you build wealth without going into debt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can money buy peace?
No.
Do you believe in keeping money secrets from your family?
No.
Can you heal in the same environment that broke you?
My knee jerk is no.
Okay.
Yet. My knee jerk is no. Yet. I think it's all communication and intent, right? I think like we've learned that, like from a societal standpoint, we have learned that we can't heal in the same environments that we experience brokenness. My wiser self says that we can, but it requires it requires work. It requires us showing up as our like biggest like self, and it requires probably patience and things that like are needed. So
okay,
yeah.
Is buying a home still the American dream?
Is it the American dream? I'll say no.
Okay.
Am I interested in it right now? Yes.
Okay. Wait, you don't have a house?
So I have a home.
Oh, okay.
I purchased a home.
Okay.
Yeah, but I say that in
Okay.
the sense of like, I am very clear. Like I had the
Gotcha.
opportunity to purchase a home. I had an opportunity, which is also very, like I have a wild story and I won't get into that, but like I had an opportunity to purchase a home and I love my home. It's
Yeah.
literally the perfect home, also very divine, all the things. Yet, I'm also very clear about, the benefits of having a home and also some of the benefits of like actually not owning a home as well.
Yeah.
And so I think that being in the American dream, I think we need to reimagine what the American dream is right now, especially as America is in the situation that it's in right now. But I do think that there are benefits to having a home.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. All right. What is something that Black people say to hype somebody up?
You go, girl.
Hey,
I love it. All my
said,
friends,
hey. Gone stuff.
Gone stuff. You better do that. Like, yeah.
This was something I like to ask, but I feel like I don't want to ask you this question, but I'm still gonna ask. What's some? This question is from the Shade Room. I didn't write this question.
Okay.
What's something that a broke man always got?
You know the first thing that popped in my mind, but I don't know that that's like it's not really
Excuses?
good.
Was that it?
Oh, I wasn't going to say
what you was gonna
excuses.
say?
I was going to say a cigarette. But that's like, is that, I don't know. I just have a really hate relationship with cigarettes.
I
And
got you.
like,
So it's
don't understand if you don't have money, how you have a cigarette.
That's true. They call it a Lucy.
A Lucy?
Yeah.
See, I didn't know that. I learned something new.
Because it's a loose. It's
yeah.
one.
It's just one.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not even but a cigarette.
All right. Cool. All right.
Watch my words wisely.
No, I love this. Now, back to the money. Future plans as one, the CEO of the nonprofit, and two, the owner of the building.
Yeah.
There's two different things going on
It's
there.
two different things right now, which to me is wild. I didn't realize that they were separate. But from a financial and money standpoint, and then also the way that organizations and like our building development and organizational structure things, they're actually two very different things. So in this moment, a year ago, I very much was operating both building development and nonprofit organization growth and work together, but they're two different things, and they both require two different funding strategies and streams. And so
Wow.
yeah, and then that's new to me, so I'm totally learning.
You would
Ask me
think
a
they
year
would
from
go-
now.
It feels like the same.
It felt like
business,
the same
yeah.
thing. And being a startup nonprofit that's making impact, that's wanting to scale into this huge, to really scale in a way that's intentional, scale in a way that grows with our impact, grows in a way that's sustainable. It's requiring a bit of a different action plan. Like it's requiring slowness. It's like, growth too fast can be not as impactful as you desire it to be.
Yeah.
And so, and then there's the building development. It's like, I own this building, yes, free and clear. And how do I revitalize it into a place where it starts to generate revenue for us, and it starts to kind of be used, and it starts to begin brought to life in a way that's also sustainable on the building development side. And like, so they have to match each other in some capacity, but they're two different things right now. And so as the future goals for I'll say the future goals for the building right now is I'm at the top of renovating it, and we're going to be doing a phase approach. And so the intention is that it becomes a place where our community has an opportunity to gather, right? And so that might be through rental space, renovating it for it can be event space. It's going to be a space that has an operating cafe and community kitchen. That it has a fully operational like healing arts space, and but the building goals are that we gain the capital to start renovating this historic building, so it then begins to bring community revitalization to this downtown area, right? And it's also a place that then benefits the people that gather there, the people that work there, and then starts to generate income, so we can continue the phase process to then build the building. On the nonprofit side, for the Well Collective, the hope is that we begin one of the initiatives, the Well Center for Healing and Humanity, which would then, of course, at some time occupy the building, but that we continue to bring community together and serve through creating space for restoration, for creating spaces that bring people together to be in dialogue, to create spaces where people can gain the skills and the tools to be resilient in their lives, to gain a space and to continue to create spaces where we are making impactful, sustainable communities.
Do people compare it to like a retreat?
So the Center for Healing and Humanity is meant to be a retreat and education center.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day.
That could be a destination station.
Oh, it is definitely a destination station. And so that's kind of where we're growing into when we are complete with the Center for Healing and Humanity, that we are inviting in both our local change makers, our local community partners, our local people, but then also that we're inviting in our global community partners, our global change makers, our global people to Richmond to come and to retreat and to learn and to reflect and to restore. And so I know that we're going to be doing that over the next couple of years, and we're preparing the nonprofit to build capacity through staff, through operation, through creating our sustainable programming. And so really putting a lot of energy into programs and operations on the nonprofit side is key.
Okay.
Yeah.
And something that, first of all, that's beautiful. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had it written down somewhere or what, or it's just all up here.
It's all up there. I need to write it down a little bit more so it doesn't change. So, I mean, I think I probably describe it very similar every time, but then I also like, it's big and it's ambitious, right? So, parts of me sometimes does really need to write it down and
write the vision and make it plain. How much money you need to do what you want to do?
We need $10 million.
You need $10 million.
We need $10 million. We need $10 million.
Let's go ahead and manifest
we're
that.
calling in $10 million. And that just really helps support the full of the vision right now. Right. It supports the development of our work as a nonprofit. It provides also the building development and creating space that we're sustainable. It provides cost for our program, so it is accessible. So whatever we offer is accessible and approachable to all that want to be a part of it. It's important, and $10 million at the end of the day is actually not that much money, the way that I'm like being able to kind of be introduced to it. It's ambitious, right? Because I've not seen $10 million in my life, right? Yet it's very much very present. And so we need $10 million to bring the fullest of the vision to life, and to create something that's sustainable, something that then supports people, that supports the property that supports like an ongoing vision to continue to bring people together.
Okay. So how can we support and how can we donate?
Yeah. So if you visit our website, it's www.thewellcollective.space. Go to our contribute page. And so there's 3 ways that we invite people to contribute, right? We invite people to contribute their time, right? That is a valuable resource, right? Specifically if there might actually not be finances, right? So contributing time through volunteering, there's so many different ways to volunteer with our programs. There's also contributing actual resources. So do you have a skill, right? And you are good at marketing, or you're good at communications, you're good at like development plans, you're good at taking pictures, videography, like whatever your natural born gift is or the skill that you've studied, there's an opportunity to sign up for that. And then there's contributing funds and contributing money. And so you can donate online, right? And you can become an annual member, which is like one set cost, but you also can give us a call and donate larger funds. All checks can be mailed to our location, what's available online. But yeah, sit down and have a conversation. If you are a larger donor and you're like, oh my gosh, like this seems like something that I want to be a part of and I have those resources, email, call, set up a conversation, and we have those. We have those readily.
And it's already built out. Like you've already proven that you can do something with little. So it's about that time to sow that seed so that we can get it even bigger.
And get it even bigger.
Impact. Did you know I was on one of your committees?
Yes, I was gonna say, I don't know, does Brianna want me to share that? But yeah, so Brianna is, which I mean, hopefully this is like, even like this is definitely a part of it, but Brianna's a part of the Marketing and Communications Committee, which is key. And that's what I say, like, one of our biggest things with the Well Collective, people are like, oh, it's this thing, and it's not. It's meant to be a collective of individuals and organizations that want to see a well world, right? And there's a lot of depth there, right? Like that's an easy statement, but there's a lot of depth to what wellness as a birthright means for us. It spans across physical, mental, emotional, social, financial, intellectual well-being, and we each have a role with that, regardless of our identity, regardless of the roles that we play in our everyday life. We each have a role in creating a well world. And so we have committees. We have a board, we have an advisory committee, and then we have very specific subject matter committees, and marketing communications is one of them. And so Brianna's on that board, which I'm super grateful for, because bringing skills and expertise, like they're so valuable. It doesn't always have to be money, right? And so like money is so key and important in the world that we live in, right? And skills, value, time, thought is so helpful. So
also I've never done team sports. So I'm gonna just say I don't know how I'm doing on this committee. I have no idea. But it also, I feel like, is an asset to me, because I'm learning how to like articulate certain things, or sometimes I get a little nervous or shy when I have to explain myself. So like, the people on your committee, let's just be clear, these are not just anybody on your, like, you have some heavy hitters there. So it's a pretty good networking tool right now. Like, one of my most coveted assets are my relationships. And it's not even like a monetized thing for me. It's just like, these people get you to think a certain way, or get you into rooms that you may not have imagined, or have conversations that you may not be comfortable having. So anyways, I thank you for letting me come on. I don't know what I'm doing, but Erin, your board, she's so sweet. She's always like, no, you're doing great. Because I'm always asking her, like, am I talking too much? Am I giving people enough time? Like, am I taking up too much space? And she's like, no, like, we're happy that you're here. We started off the meeting with a meditation. Now I'm not used to that either. Now, that was,
we start off all of our meetings with meditation.
That was different. Because I'm like, all right, let's get to. She was like, wait a minute. Let me say the mantra. I'm like, okay, let's do the mantra. Then we get into the money. Okay.
I'm so glad that that's one of our like community agreements is like, like we can reimagine how we work with each other. Right? Like we can reimagine relationships. We can reimagine how we show up. We can reimagine how we like move into productivity. And so that's really like a staple. So I'm actually really glad to hear that. And, you know, it is about relationships and bringing people together. And so whether it's across races, ethnicities, ages, skill sets, experiences, like that's really what the Well Collective is bringing people together that can then move towards like this bigger intention of, you know, we know that relationships are key to our well-being. Yeah. We know that,
and then
right?
it expands that real estate in your head, not just outside. But you got intellectual real estate up here. I feel like it's been expanded just being in proximity to what you have going on.
Yeah. So thank you for being a part of it.
Hey, for sure. And I'm gonna be at the meeting next month. So the way I usually end this off is I ask you what a quote is that you have that resonates with you in a book that you read. I can start. Okay. I can't sweep another person's porch unless I sweep mine.
That's good.
You know who I heard say that?
Who?
You.
Oh, did it? Well, it's interesting that you said that.
That's good.
That's good. But it's interesting that you said that because literally yesterday I was on, I do a lot of healing work all the time, but I was on this call and that's what I left with. And I was like, and so when you just said that, I was like, oh my gosh.
You said that?
No, I didn't say that. Okay. But they like the ending tone was like, you can't invite other people into this work unless you start the work.
I got
right?
you. I got you.
And when you just said that, I was like, oh, that's showing up again.
Yeah.
Right? But that's been my biggest lesson this year. So I appreciate you bringing back and renaming that. Words are so powerful. And, you know, one quote from, what book are you reading?
I was going to just go to you for that one.
Oh, you can go that? Okay, okay, gotcha. So.
We can cut that part. No,
no, that was good. Books are hard. I committed to reading one book a year. One book a month. One book a year. I committed to reading one book a month, and I have not, I just started reading a book this month.
Yeah. I used to, so my favorite book is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
My second favorite book is The Automatic Millionaire by David Bach. And I really enjoyed the book. What was it? This is kind of morbid, but it was called Killing the Black Body. I couldn't even read all of it, but that was the book that made me question everything about my experience as a Black person in America. Yeah. So how am I supposed to figure out, why is this still happening? Because I read that book during, COVID and George Floyd and all of the, Breonna Taylor situation. I'm like, why is this still happening? And that's what switched my mindset to be like, oh, they're buying, or post-enslaved people are buying their families back with money. And I read the book 12 Years a Slave, and it was saying how, Africans were kind of selling their own people for gold, money, influence, power. So I'm like, okay, so all roads seem to lead back to money. So that's when I started getting into entrepreneurship. Yeah. There's so much that we need to unpack around money and social status and classism and stuff. And we need to do it in all communities. I think right now for me is doing that a little bit deeper in the Black community. Yeah. And when I say that, I mean my family, right? Really looking at my relationship with money, my family's relationship with money, the lineage of that. And then also there's a lot of depth with how that looks like. But I think that's also something with your quote brings forth too. And so for me, the quote that's at the top of my mind right now, and it has been recently, is when you get where you're going, don't forget where you came from. It was God that brought you a mighty long way. And it was said by my late pastor from a family church that I grew up in Hopewell, Virginia, Mount Calvary. His name was Reverend Joseph D. Morrison. And so it's just one that stays at the top of my mind, specifically in this moment of expansion. And I am in a moment of abundance, right? And I am in a moment of I didn't get here by myself, right? All of this is orchestrated by God. And it could be easy to be how can I do this for me? When it's this moment in my life, it's not about me, right? It's about God moving through me, and it's about God having mercy on me in my life, and God having mercy on those that are around me to allow me to be here. And so that's at the forefront of my mind as I get to make these very big decisions, and I step into this very big actionable steps. And we all have that,
right? Like we all have this opportunity if we allow ourselves to be here. And it's taken me a lot of work to get here. And so that's like when you get where you're going, don't forget where you came from. It was God that brought you a mighty long way. And it's something that he said at the end of every single sermon. And the book, I cannot remember. And so this is why I said I just started this book and I can't remember what it's called. It's like I want to grab my phone.
What's it about?
So it's 10 lessons that 10 lessons. It's like where do you go from here? I think it's called Where Do You Go From Here? And it could be wrong, but it's like 10 lessons on grief, loss, and transformation.
We'll plug it.
I cannot remember, but plug it into, in the notes. But it's just really helpful on getting to know how do you move through times of uncertainty in a way that creates space for change to happen.
I got you.
You know, and like how to show up truly and authentically and like in a way that's like relationship building and with courage. And so like where do we go from here? I think that's what it's called. I can't remember. It's a book that I would invite everybody to read.
This has been a phenomenal episode. Thank y'all so much for tuning in.
Yeah.
I just feel so peaceful right now. I don't know why. My voice just got really calm. Because y'all know I started off like, but now I'm like talking to you. I'm like, everything is okay.
Yeah.
Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Peace, blessings. Good night.
I love it.